Hey everybody, welcome to the Auto Body Edge. I am your host, Angel, and today I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Chris Lawson, founder of Technician Find, to the show. Now, if you don't know Chris, he's an absolute master in hiring technicians. Him and his team has helped hundreds of shops hire technicians using out-of-the-box strategies that really, really work. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm really happy to have you here. I'm really happy to pick your brain. So, Chris, I mean, if you know, we really try to give a lot of value here. One of the things I wanted to ask you at the top of this show, was in one sentence, can you tell us how to hire techs in 2025?
Yeah, it's hard to boil down. Let me see if
Yeah,
I could do that. I would say that a skilled and motivated technician will be working, not searching job boards. So keep this critical point in mind when developing your hiring strategy and recruiting strategy.
nice. That's dense. That's good. That's exactly what we like. So, okay, skilled and motivated tech will be working. Perfect. So, I think that's the biggest thing I took from that. So, I really want to take this episode unpacking that sentence and really diving into it. But first, I mean, I kind of wanted to take it back to looking at the industry right now, right? Right now, what are you seeing is the biggest roadblocks to hiring technicians in this year?
I think the biggest roadblock is, there's lots of things that are going on, but there's lots of good things as well. So one of them is, yes, people are leaving the industry, and definitely folks my age and older are kind of timing out because of just their body, things that are going on with their body. But it's also difficult because you're not getting as many new folks that come in. It's changing a little bit. People like Mike Rowe are talking about the trades and really bringing a lot of light on that. But the problem is, I've talked to a lot of technicians who are going to be plumbers and doing things like that because it's just difficult to get your foot in the door. So I think those are their big problems. Another big problem is that what usually ends up happening is shops don't think a lot about culture or enough about culture. And that's what attracts new employees to you rather than actually going out and having to pound the pavement every time you need somebody and building a deep bench. And these are things that are definitely within every shop's control. You can build yourself a deep bench. You can have a culture and display that culture on social media so that people that are watching you and tracking you can see that. And those are all things in your control. And I will say one thing that is definitely a win definitely for independent shops is whenever a private equity firm buys a shop in your area, there's going to be a mass exodus of people.
Mm.
So I always tell shops that I work with, hey, look, tell me the second you hear about any private equity firms that are going in and buying up a bunch of shops because they usually come in with a my way or the highway type of attitude. And it's a great opportunity to get some ads going because there'll be some good high quality talent looking for a new place to land.
Yeah, that's a great point because a lot of the times, we see a private equity firm buying a shop and we think, oh, here we go again, right? The stats are leaning towards acquisitions. And it is a little bit scary when you see one of those bigger, firms coming in and taking market share. But
Yeah.
when you look at it like this, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? This
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, this was later in my notes here to go over, but this reminds me of one of the things you say is that money is not the number one driver, right? And a lot of the times these firms they have a lot of money to put into their not only their techs but their tools and everything in the shop. I mean that might be a little controversial to shop owners, right? Could you like expand on what you think about money not being the number one driver? What is the number one driver, and where does it sit on that? Where does money sit on that list?
Yeah. I've talked to hundreds of technicians at this point, and uh, really what it comes down to, and I've seen plenty of technicians take a cut in pay to go somewhere that had a better culture, somewhere that gave them a little bit more of a life outside of the shop. And there are a lot of different factors that are all combined. And I've actually reduced it down into it's a Venn diagram. So it's got three circles, and the first one is respect. You definitely want to have respect. And a lot of technicians feel like either they're, a hired gun, they feel like they're not respected, and they don't feel like their ideas are accepted either. And having someone on site that is a decision maker is so important. The next thing is growth, having the opportunity to grow, having a pathway to some type of career development, something that is a future. And this is specifically important for younger techs that are getting into the industry is, hey, where is this going to happen? Where is this going to lead? I mean, I was on the phone with a young tech and he said, Chris, I just can't get really excited about an endless stream of cars to fix.
Hmm.
And I said, man, part of me said, well, gosh, that's the job. I didn't tell him that, but I was thinking to myself, well, that's a job, buddy. But then I started thinking more deeply about it. And what he was really saying is, there's no future. I'm not part of something that's bigger than myself. I'm not part of a vision. And that is the leader, the manager, the general manager, or the owner's responsibility is to be that leader, that visionary leader, and give their team something to be a part of. And then the third thing is money. It's compensation. And you have to be competitive. I mean, you can't be way, way low. But notice how that's the third thing that I mentioned. And when
Hmm.
you combine those three things, now you've got something that's a really compelling story to tell to bring in top talent.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think respect is one of those things that's not that's kind of overlooked, I feel. There's a lot of conversation about how people don't want to work, right? And there's not a lot of growth opportunities like you're talking about within the industry or a lot of these shops. And just taking someone under your wing, I think can go a long way. I think it'll hit both of those, right? The respect and growth path. Um,
Absolutely.
I just saw a post from a gentleman on Facebook earlier today. Um, Totally forgot his name, but he was talking about how he brought his son into the industry, and I mean, his son can see the clear path, right? I mean, in this case, it was body tech to shop owner, so he sees that path going up. But not a lot of these people have aspirations to be shop owners, but you can still see a pathway forward, which is always helpful. So just taking someone under your wing, I feel like it could go a long way.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. One of the things I wanted to ask you too, because I personally hear a lot of shop owners, they talk about, and I get, I read a lot of comments on Facebook. We're running ads on Facebook. We get a lot of comments. One of the things
Yeah.
I see is people just say it's impossible to find good employees. It's impossible to find a really good technician. This is kind of a tongue-in-cheek question, but is it impossible to find techs today, at this day and age?
It's not. It's not. They're out there. They're out there.
Okay.
You know what? I think that what ends up happening is the shops that say that are just going about the approach in the wrong way.
Mm,
And this is part of what I mentioned in the very beginning is you have to come at it from a perspective of what is it that we're doing here? Is what we're doing here trying to get an ad out in front of a technician that's looking to make a move? Or is what we're doing trying to get an offer out, an offer that would be compelling to the right technician who may be working, but they're not actively looking?
mm,
And that's really where the sweet spot is. And I don't see a lot of shops that are going after this because and the way that you tell is go down to any job board and
mm.
look at all of the technician ads and notice something about them. They all look almost identical.
Yep. Hmm.
It's almost like they grabbed somebody's, their
Yeah.
competitor's, ad and then changed their address and their name and then put it back out there.
Mhm.
And that's not how you go after someone that's not looking. So you really have to make sure that you're going at it from that perspective. And I always look at it from a perspective of what you're really doing is you're fishing.
Mm,
And think of it as, hey, you're not just going down to the pier to fish. Let's say that you're looking to hook a blue marlin.
mhm,
So what is it going to take to hook a blue marlin? Well, you're not going to use the regular bait. You need special bait.
mm,
That's going to be your ad. You have to write an ad that's going to hook somebody that is maybe comfortably working, but they would be open to a new opportunity. That's a completely different ad than an ad that's for somebody that's on a job board and is
mm,
looking to switch shops. So add the bait, first thing. Second thing is you want to have the right fishing hole. You need to go to the right place. If you want to get in front of somebody who's already working, you don't go to Craigslist, you don't go to, Monster, you don't go to the job boards. You go to where they hang out. So you have to know where good technicians hang out online, then you have to get your good ad in front of them. And the third thing is you got to reel them in. I mean, if you've ever been big deep sea fishing, big game fishing, you know that when you get them on the hook, that's just the beginning, right?
Yep.
You know, blue marlin can, fight you for hours. So one of the other areas that I see shops really falling down is they don't follow up the right way. They
Mm,
don't say the right things in that first phone call. That first phone call is so critical. You have to say the right thing or you get ghosted.
mm,
And whenever a shop calls me and said, I got ghosted, I'll say, what did you say on that first call? And we know right there. That's what
mm,
happened. So you have to do all those things and follow up until the toolbox is dropped in order to get top talent. And that's what the problem is you say there isn't anybody out there. No, it's just because you're not doing it the right way. And then, the other story I have for this is the bear story.
yep.
And I told you the bear story, and I think, most people have heard this, but I'll just remind you of it. So there's two guys, they're camping, and they hear something outside their tents at night, rustling in the bushes. So they both unzip their tents, they get out, and they start looking. They shine a flashlight to see it's a grizzly bear. So one guy bends down, he laces up his hiking boots, and the other guy says to him, "What are you doing? We can't outrun the bear." And the other guy says, "I don't have to outrun the bear, I just have to outrun you."
Yeah.
So, how does this apply to your shop? Well, you don't have to have the highest pay. You don't have to be the pristine shop. What you have to do, though, is you have to have a more compelling ad and a more compelling presence than the shops around you. If you can demonstrate an opportunity that's better than the opportunity of the shops around you, you can attract top talent. And I always tell my clients, hey, are there a half dozen good techs in your area? And they always laugh. Yeah, there are a half dozen good techs in your area. And I always say, what would it take to get a couple of them to come and work for you? And that's really what it's all about.
Mm,
There are technicians in your area, and we can talk about rural areas later if you want to talk about that. But
yeah.
there is always enough talent if you know how to attract the talent and you
Mm.
run a good shop and you have good leadership.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to know. I mean, one of the things, I mean, we can talk about rural shops now because that's something I hear too. It's like it's funny, there's a lot of talk about, again, going back to the impossible. It's impossible to find techs here. You just don't understand. We're in a really small area. You've never seen this. Like next town over is 15 minutes or whatever. And then there's people who say, well, you don't understand. We're in too big of a city. We're in Dallas, right? We're in Dallas and it's just too dense here. There's too much technicians and it's hard to sift through. So sometimes the grass isn't always greener, but I mean, speaking from experience, like in marketing, it's harder to market a rural shop. So I'm assuming it's harder to market for getting work as well. But how do body shop owners get past that rural marketing hardship, I guess, to bring in more body techs?
You have to think out further. So really what it ends up happening in most cases with real rural shops is you've got to place ads in areas outside of their local
Mm,
geography. And what that means is, again, it means adjusting your ad. So inside of your ad, you need to offer some kind of relocation assistance.
mm.
And shop owners always bristle when I say relocation assistance because they
Of
think,
course.
oh gosh, here we go. We're going to unload the Mayflower van in front of their house and pack everything up, and
Yeah.
it's going to cost me tens of thousands of dollars. But I have seen every type of relocation package you can imagine.
Mm,
From, hey, we'll give you a few bucks, $50 for gas to get, down here, or we'll rent you a truck, or hey, we got a double wide that's 200 yards from the shop. You can
mm.
stay here for 6 months until you get on your feet. It's just individually negotiated. But in the ads, it's important that you put something in the ad that describes the area. And that's why I put together a mini travel brochure, GPT, on in the Technician Find community. So you just go in, you plug in your city and your state, and it will draft it for you. You grab that, you put it into your ad, and now you have a really nice, compelling description of what it's like to live in your city. And then you just offer relocation, and now you can drop your ads outside of your local area and attract people to come in.
That's awesome. Is that GPT available on the school community?
Yep, yep.
Awesome. I
It's
gotta check that out. That's really cool. That's gonna
yep, yep.
and
And
I think
that's the best way to do it.
Of course, yeah. I think a lot of people overlook that. I think being, especially if you're from a rural area and you see it's everything you see all day, you can't really pick out the what's special, right, about your hometown. But having a fresh set of eyes, in this case, an AI travel brochure bot, I mean, that's gonna be incredible for your ad. And I think one of the things that we should probably talk about now viewing your ad as more than just a list of job descriptions, right? One of the things that I see, I mean, you mentioned it as well, when you go to Monster or Craigslist to see a job listing for a body tech, you see they look exactly the same as everyone else. How do you stand out, right?
Yeah.
Most successful ads I've seen personally were just like you said, like travel brochure, right? Thinking of your ad as more than just that job description list. One of the things, an old mentor of mine, his name's Chris as well, Chris Collins. He told me like you got to view you're selling more than just the job. You can't just start your job listing like everybody else, writing the bullet point descriptions of what you should be doing, right? These texts, especially good texts, they already know what they should be doing. They don't need a recap, right? So you really want to open with something that draws them in, right? I know plenty. I'm from California. I know plenty of just people in my everyday life, my friends and family who want to move somewhere rural and own two
Hmm.
acres of land, right? So
Hmm.
that's what you could sell. So I think could you speak a little bit about that, the viewing your job listing as something more than just just a bullet point description list, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, such a great point. Such a great point. I think you can always tell when somebody hasn't put a lot of thought into their job ad because it's all about what they want.
Mm,
And there's all. I mean, I know you'll appreciate this. As a fellow marketer, we always talk about what's in it for me,
yep.
and we have to look at it from the perspective of a technician.
Hmm.
Not from your perspective, not what you want, not what you need, not from your production or any of that other level. You want to look at it from the technician. And we also want to do something else that's a marketing, phrase is we want to join the conversation that's already going on in their head.
Hmm.
So whenever we start writing an ad, we're always thinking about the ad from the perspective of the technician. So think about what a technician is thinking when they read an ad. The first thing that they're thinking, oh, this is just like every other ad. Every shop is the same. You don't know. I had a young technician tell me this. He said, you know what, Chris? I said, what do you think when you see an ad? And he said, you know what? I think, all ads are the same. All shops will tell you whatever they need to get you to
Mm,
start. And you don't know the truth until you go to work there. And by then it's too late. And I've heard some version of that dozens and dozens of times over the years.
mm,
So think about when a tech is reading your ad. The first thing you have to do is grab their attention. And you grab their attention in the headline with benefits to them, not benefits to you, or not puffery, or we're the greatest, or we've won all these awards, or
mm,
generations of excellence, all this BS that's not important to a tech, but a promise of what the ad's going to show. And then watch them. Visualize them reading the first line. Does it resonate with them? Do you understand where they're coming from? Do you understand their pain? Are you saying something like, hey, Bob's, collision is, tradition of excellence since 1946, and we do this and we do that? Or are you saying, hey, look, we get it. Your boss micromanages you. You
mm.
didn't haven't had a raise in forever. All these things that happen that are not, that are your day-to-day pains. Start out with that, then get into benefits. What you're trying to do, and I'm a big fan of Donald Miller and his story brand, is what you're trying to do is you're trying to invite them into a story that's about them.
Mhm.
You're inviting them into a story where they can experience a transformation, they can experience a better life, where they can work for somebody who cares as much about them in the shop as they do that cares about them outside the shop and wants their life to work inside the shop and outside the shop. That's what you're trying to communicate. And when you draft ads like that, it brings people in, it's compelling, and it gets results.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the things that I mean we were talking before the show, the AI ad tuner, right? That's something
Yes.
that I think would help so much just thinking of these ads in a different way, right? And and maybe just using that as an audit, right? Having all these tools at your disposal to use as an audit to say like, um, maybe you think you're putting out your best work with your best job description or your best job listing, but you're not seeing the little things that could really help, right? I think that was brilliant saying the grab their attention in the headline, right? We have to, I mean, coming from the marketing background, we have to start looking at these job listings as a real ad, right? An
That's
actual
exactly what they are.
advertisement. Yeah, for your shop. Like
Exactly.
you're
Yep.
advertising your shop um and think about each sentence as you go down, right? The first sentence that they read, what are they reading? How are you going to keep drawing them in every sentence? I think that's brilliant. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about too was marketing, using traditional social media marketing, have maybe like videos that you could put out on your page. One of the things that I know is that using marketing can be a double benefit, right? It could attract customers, but it could also attract really good work, right? I know
Absolutely.
some of the biggest brands like they have a really great social media presence and they're attracting both customers and employees. That's the purpose. So, what are some of those videos or pieces of content that body shops can put out to really both attract customers and attract really good employees?
Wow, such a great question. Yeah, in order to attract both, and we see this all the time. It's funny. I'll get a couple times a month, I'll have a shop owner, a GM tell me, Chris, we get busier when you're running your health wanted ads. It's kind
Mm,
of funny that it works that way, even though the ads don't have anything to do with about the services that they're offering. And I would say the biggest thing that you can do is you can post day in a life,
mm,
things that are going on in the shop. Are you decorating for holidays? Are your customers bringing their pets in? Take pictures of those. Do those types of things. Let people know what it's like to work for you. You have barbecues?
mm.
Are you doing any type of group activities? Are you doing axe throwing or escape rooms or things like that? Post all of that on there. I was on a I was on a panel a few months back, and one of the shop owners on the panel said um, the last technician he hired stalked him on Facebook for a year.
Wow.
So, yeah, so they had initially had a conversation.
Mm,
Timing wasn't right. This tech just followed everything on their Facebook page. And when he came back, he said, you know what? I can tell that you really take care of your employees.
mm.
And I want to be part of a team that takes care of their employees. So those are the type of things that you can post. And always remember, people are watching you. Your customers are watching you on social media. Potential employees are watching you on social media, and anything that you post is just think about it from a perspective of showing how you care about your customers, how you care about your employees, and what a day in the life is like. And those are all going to be really big hits for you.
So yeah, it's like your marketing to your customers can be marketing to your employees, and then even
Absolutely.
your job listings, your marketing to the job listings on those job sites can be marketing to customers. It just works vice versa, I
Absolutely.
think. What you
We
said
get
was
so many. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
What you said was really smart. Just people see what you do online or in person, right? Yeah, so that's brilliant. I mean, that's really helpful to know.
Yeah, we get comments all the time. So we run ads
Mhm.
for jobs for technicians, and we'll get comments. They'll get comments from their customers and say, "Hey, you'd be blessed to work for this business. They just do an amazing job." And you get these really nice, kind words and testimonials from people on the job ads. So it's something that everybody's watching when you see this, and it heightens you're basically marketing, like you said before. You're marketing your shop, you're
Mhm.
marketing not only to customers, but you're also marketing towards talent.
And that's one of the ways that I had right here in my notes, like how can body shops compete with these bigger shops that are coming in without paying more? And I really think that's one of the ways, right? Because as an independent shop, I mean, you have more freedom to market, you have more freedom to post and just do things that are beneficial to your business and to your employees. So might as well talk about it, right? Might as well just post about it and sometimes it could take like you said a year. But just doing it, just having it in the background, I mean, it's always going to help. It's
Definitely.
not going to hurt. So that's great. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, we kind of touched on this, but where should body shop owners avoid placing ads now? Like what doesn't work anymore? What are the places that we want to lean towards? Where do they want to be active? Do you see this is a question, but do you see local groups online working well? Where do you think shop owners should be when it comes to placing these ads?
I definitely think Facebook is a great place for posting ads. Facebook, Instagram, we use them extensively,
Mm,
and they still work 100%. And it's funny because I get pushed back all the time. Oh, well, why don't you go to TikTok? Oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And I said, you know what? We still get
yeah.
great, great results. And the other part about this is you want to be posting in other places online as well. One of the things that is really important is to get picked up on a platform like Google Jobs. And if
Mm,
you're posting in several different places online, Google Jobs is going to pick up your job listing
mhm,
anyway, and you're going to get ranked. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize. And, going back to our conversation about rural shops, what I've heard a lot over the years is that the way that the shops hire technicians is the technician either grew up in the area or wants to
mhm,
move, wants to move back or wants to move to that area. They go out, they Google,
mhm,
you know, collision repair in city, and what ends up coming up are the Google search results or Indeed, because Indeed ranks really well, or, Facebook or some of these other things. And they end up finding the ads if they're properly structured, they end up finding the ads and then applying because they were intending to move back into the area anyway, and they were able to find these jobs. So
mhm,
SEO is definitely a part of the process, but posting in many different areas is also important. And one thing I would do give a tip about is some of these applicant tracking systems, they sell you on the fact that they post to hundreds of job boards. It's not going to help you.
mm,
It's one job board, 100 job boards, it doesn't matter
yeah.
because who you're getting in front of on a job board are the technicians who are looking for work.
Mm,
And that's a small percentage of the overall market. And you're not going to get that tech who, maybe isn't as happy as they
mhm.
know they could be, but they're not unhappy enough to start looking. You're just not going to get them unless you're actively pursuing them somewhere where they hang out, like social media.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know from experience with marketing body shops, I know that when it's funny, we kind of avoid Facebook for the reason that you're describing. Like when somebody is looking for collision repair, they go to Google, but when they're not looking, when they're scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, then they see a marketing for the shop. And typically, if somebody reaches out on socials for something cosmetic, it's a smaller job. So we will try to avoid that. But in this case, that's kind of something you want, right? You want to attract the body tech who just got home after working crazy hours and getting berated or who's not having a really good experience at his shop and who's just like relaxing on the couch and who sees a really great ad, well put together ad that stands out, right?
Or their spouse. We hear
Yeah.
this all the time. We say, somebody says, "Hey, honey, you need to see this," because their spouse knows. They
Yep.
come home and complain about the shop or their buddy. Their buddy is, sitting there, at a ball game or something,
Yeah.
or, sitting there having a beer with them, and they say, "Hey, I just saw something that, this just came across my feed. You should see this." So they end up tagging them. We see people getting tagged in posts all the time.
Yeah.
And that's as big a determinant as anything else, getting those referrals from people who know that they're not happy
Mm.
and can, tell them that there may be another opportunity.
Yeah, that makes me think you should try a headline that says, "Are you tired of hearing your body tech friend complain about his current shop or something like that? Send this to him, and yeah, we'll give you a referral bonus or something." That would be funny. That makes
Yeah.
so. I really want to go back to the small market that we were talking about. Do you have any success stories you could bring up about helping a shop that's in like a rural market? Find some good work. Maybe they pulled from another market or they found it in town. Do you have any really good examples of that?
Yeah, we do that. I have several. What we do is we actually work in several different areas. So we do work in collision, we work in diesel, we work in general auto. We've done work in transmission. We do automotive, HD. And the process works the same for basically all of our shops. I can tell you that for rural areas, what we always like to do is we like to saturate the area first, and we like
Mm.
to see if there is anybody in the local area. But if you've got a town that's like 7,000 people, you're going
Yeah.
to exhaust the local area pretty quickly.
Mm.
And we can tell because we look at numbers. And that's another thing that almost no shops, when they're doing this themselves, ever look at the numbers. They aren't
Mm.
looking at the metrics and the KPIs. They
Exactly.
don't know how many people have seen the ads. They don't know how many people have clicked on the ads. They
Nope.
aren't tracking conversions. They aren't doing any of that. So, you're almost flying blind when you do that and you can't tell. But we worked with one shop in Wyoming, in a very isolated area in Wyoming, and we had to place ads all the way out we placed ads in Washington. We
Mm.
placed ads near Seattle. We placed ads in California. We placed ads, in uh, Los Angeles, in San Francisco area, the Bay Area. We placed ads all the way down in San Diego. We placed ads in Phoenix. They ended up getting someone that came in from Seattle
Mm.
and just was ready to move out of um, the state because they
Yeah.
just didn't like the way things were going.
Mm.
And they saw the ad, and we had the mini travel brochure in there, and it just really lit them up. They said, "Hey, look, yeah, I want to do fishing. I want to do hiking.
Yep.
I want to do motorsports." And that's what lit them up.
Mm.
So that's one. We had another one who was in, gosh, who's the most desolate that we had? We had one that was in Montana, Helena, Montana.
Mm.
And this shop, basically we exhausted the local area there and we exhausted all of Montana. And then we went out and they ended up getting somebody from California. They
Neat.
were tired of California. And this is actually a situation where they took a cut in pay
Mm-hmm.
because they were in the Bay Area and they were a technician in the Bay Area and they were
Wow.
making a lot of money in the Bay Area. I think it's like over 200,000 a year.
Yep.
And they took a cut in pay because they wanted a more just a lifestyle
Mm.
that was just better for them. And they said, you know what? This is what sold us. We love the idea of coming someplace that's just got a slower lifestyle, slower change of pace. And we put something in there about the cost of living
Mm.
because it's difficult when you're advertising in an area that is really high cost of living because the salaries are so much higher.
Mm.
And you have to make them aware, hey, look, yeah, we're not going to give you 200,000 a year here,
Mm.
but you don't need 200,000 a year here because our cost of living is a lot more affordable in this area. So those are the types of things that you can do in order to attract talent to your area. But I always highly recommend you consider placing ads outside the area because, I had a mentor one time that said the situation is the boss.
Mm.
If you're in a city of 10,000 or 7,000 people and you're looking for a really high quality technician and there's only a few shops to choose from and they're pretty entrenched, you need to look outside that area and just get creative. And it's
Mm.
definitely possible. And neither one of those shops I just mentioned offered ridiculous relocation packages. They just said, hey, look, we'll help you get out here.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They negotiated it.
Yeah, and like I said, I know plenty of people in California who are looking to get out. I know personally when I used to work for a advertising agency, and in California, I had some of my um, my peers, the other employees of the company, we were making the same amount, but they lived in the Midwest, and they were building homes, they were
Hmm.
buying acres of land, and I'm over there in California, barely able to get by with a two-bedroom apartment. So
Right.
it was, I would have taken anything to 2 acres of land and build a home and yeah, like that really seems like it's the case, especially pulling from some of the areas in Northern California too. These guys have been making so much money, and we can assume that they have some put aside to for a relocation, and some of them are dying to get out. I mean, there's so many people who romanticize the slower life, right? And I really think that travel brochure is incredible. It's probably incredibly helpful to put that in front of a tech and to get them in that mindset of this new life that they could have, right?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's
Paint that
awesome.
picture.
Yeah, and Helena, I believe it's how you, that's what the city you mentioned.
Hmm.
I see here that the population is about 30,000, so it's super small, but seeing these photos, it's beautiful. Like,
It is gorgeous. Yeah, it really
yeah.
is.
And that's really what you're selling, right? You're selling this a lifestyle at a shop that treats you right. And one of the things, though, I know for a fact, I know this personally because in marketing it's the same thing, but one of the things that can really kill hiring body techs for shop owners is the follow-up, like you were talking about earlier. So, I mean, can we circle back to that? Like, what are some of the things that you see some shops will say, or maybe I think in my opinion, it's a little bit of like an attitude. Maybe some shop owners could give off, like when talking to customers, for instance. Sometimes if somebody's calling about a smaller job, and as a shop owner, of course, you're busy. You're a little bit like, like, oh man, I got to get out to all these cars here. Like, what do you want, right? So how can shop owners make sure to, or what do you see that they're doing wrong when following up, and how can we correct that? Like, what's a really good way to follow up with these guys?
Yeah, it's a great question. Follow up is so critical, so, so critical. And this is one of the areas where those top shops that we work with
Mhm.
really excel. So the first thing I would say is you're totally right about attitude. And what I think a lot of shops have gotten stuck in this mentality that they're in the driver's seat
Mhm.
and you're not in the driver's seat, and that's it's a shift. And, frankly, it's hard for shop owners, their ego to take this sometimes, but you have to realize if a technician is talking to you, they're talking to two other shops.
Mhm.
Just assume that. Even if we found them and they weren't looking, once they get into their head that they want to start looking and talking to shops, they're talking to two other shops.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, this is the mentality that you have to go into this conversation with and into this recruiting effort with is you got to move fast, you
Hmm.
know. And we know from the marketing area, we have this saying, speed to lead.
Hmm.
Speed to lead is very appropriate here too. It drives me nuts. I used to, when I first started working with shops, we'd send them leads, we'd send them candidates, and they'd wait 3 days to reach out to them.
Hmm.
I said, "What are you doing? You have to reach out to these people as quickly as possible and start the conversation." So, speed to lead, definitely. Attitude is the other thing. And then the next one is what do you say on that first call?
Hmm.
This can make or break you. This outreach can make or break you. And one of the things that I always say, I'll give you two really powerful things that can completely transform getting ghosted in the beginning. One of them is any communication that's written, you want to say capital R, capital E, colon, technician job. That's
Hmm.
how you begin the communication. So that's how you begin a text message. That's how you begin an email. That's how you begin a response on Indeed or whatever job board that you are on, because most technicians are going to be looking at this on their phone. And if you start out with, "Hey, this is John Smith with, John's Collision and blah blah blah," most of that's going to get cut off, and it's going to look like an ad. It's going to look like spam. "Hey, this is John, blah blah blah." I get those kind of things every day. I don't know about you, but I get that
Yep.
kind of stuff. "Hey, this is blah blah blah. There's a local representative here that got my number somehow, and he sends me a text message asking for money like every, couple of days." And I just delete it. It's like, "Oh, it's, Carl's asking for money again."
Yeah.
So position it like that. There isn't any technician that can resist if somebody says regarding technician job. They're
Hmm.
going to say, "Oh, what is it? Is it more money? Where is
Yeah.
it? What's happening?" You can't resist it. So that's how you open. The next thing is when you get them on the phone, you always want to make sure that you're asking two questions. In sales, we always know that you don't want to do too much at any one step. And a lot of shop owners that I speak with, they don't, I mean, they get it intuitively, but they don't really think about it. But your job ad isn't meant to get somebody to the interview.
Hmm.
Your job ad is meant to get them on the phone or get them interested or get them to raise their hand and communicate with you and engage with you. You don't want to do too much there. And then it's the same thing on the job in the on that first phone call.
Hmm.
on the first phone call, what you're trying to do is, yeah, you may want to ask some skill questions to find out a little bit more about them. You want to find out how many years they've been in the business and what type of working environments they've been in.
Mm,
But there's two things that you always want to make sure you do. One of the things you want to make sure you do is ask them, hey, what has you looking for other opportunities right now? And that's a really important question because you're going to uncover the pain. And if you can match up their pain with your solution, they'll remember you.
hmm
So if they say something like, oh, there's just so much drama here. I just can't stand it. I hate coming into work because there's so much drama. And you can tell them, you know what? This is a drama-free shop.
mm,
We like to get out in front of problems. We like to have open communication, and we do not allow drama anywhere in the shop. Now you've linked that up, and
hmm
now you've created a bond. And now that's something that most shops aren't going to do. So even if they are talking to two other shops, they're not going to have created that bond.
hmm
Then you take it to the next step and you say, hey, let's say we were talking a year from now. You've had the best year of your life. What's happened personally and professionally? Find out from them what they want to accomplish. And then bonus points is if you can help them connect with both of those things. Like if they say, hey, I want to train, I want to get these, certifications, I want to do this, this, and this. And you say, hey, we've got a program where
hmm
we'll actually pay you to get these things done. And you say you want to buy a house. You know what? One of the things we do as an employee benefit is we bring in a financial advisor. We take a look at your credit score. We do all these things to make sure that you're set up powerfully so that you can get into a house in a year. Now, you've done something else. You've shown that not only are you taking care of their career and you're going to, you know, put them on a path to get where they want to be in their career, but you're also taking care of their life outside of work. That's going to position you light years ahead of any other shops because they're not asking those questions. And it's also going to make them so they take your call in the future. They're going to remember who you are. You're not just some shop that I talked to. You're the ones that have a plan for me to get my house. You're the ones that have a plan for me to get all my certs. You're the ones that have,
Yep.
the plans for no drama, so I don't have to dread Sunday afternoon and dread going back into the shop on Monday. So these are some things that can help tremendously towards towards getting this process smoothed out. One last bonus I want to give you is make sure that you have your process works quickly.
Mm,
I've also seen shops that are good at responding in the beginning, but they just string them out so long.
yeah.
They string them out for a week or 10 days. And it's like, I don't know what's going on. Always make sure that everybody knows where you are, that you're communicating. You don't want to let 72 hours go by, preferably not 48 hours go by without being in communication. Just let them know, hey, we're still gathering resumes. We're definitely going to talk to you. Hey, we're scheduling interviews. Stay tuned. We're going to schedule an interview. Hey, you know what? We're running background checks. However you do that, you want to make sure that you keep them in the loop so
Yep.
that you're moving the process forward because I've had so many shops that had a really great tech on the hook, but they waited too long and they accepted another offer.
Mm.
So
Yeah, you want to strike while the iron's hot, right?
definitely,
Really. I mean,
definitely.
I hope the viewers are realizing how valuable this is. I mean, there's a lot of overlays between just regular sales and marketing, whether you're getting
Absolutely.
a customer and selling a tech, selling a body tech, a regular tech into your shop. Like, there's so many overlays, like I mentioned. So, I mean, one of the things I think, going back to what you said earlier, taking care of making sure they realize you're taking care of them inside the shop and outside the shop. I think that's one of that's a really big takeaway. And you can be creative about it. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't always have to be financial incentives. I know,
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people think that, but even as something as uh, you mentioned having a financial advisor, maybe booking an hour of their time to come into the shop. I mean, it's going to be it's not going to be as expensive as massive relocation assistance or something like that, but it's showing them that you care, right? So that's incredibly valuable. It's really great to hear.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say in terms of differentiating yourself,
Mm,
it can be so easy. I mean, I've seen shops that have brought in masseuses, they'll bring in the chair massage, and they'll, just have everybody go through and do chair massage. I've seen shops that bring in life coaches and therapists
Yep.
and say, hey, look, here's, spend 45 minutes talking about, things that are going on in your life
Mhm.
outside. I've seen shops that have sent their employees, their service managers to inpatient substance abuse programs and said, hey, we know you need to get cleaned up. We care about you. We love you. Go get cleaned up. Your job will be here when you get back. I mean, it's just, I mean, the sky's the limit to what you can offer. And you can be so much more nimble and flexible
Mhm.
than, a big dealer, quite frankly, because you can really take the time to get to know your individuals and tailor this to them.
Mhm.
And if you don't know, ask, ask, what would you like to see? Because they'll tell you. And when
Yeah.
you're listening, that's really how you develop a culture of letting people know that you really care about them.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Differentiating yourself. I think that's one of the biggest benefits that independent shops have against these bigger shops, right? Whether it's in if it's in general repair, it's the dealerships, in body, it's the those private equity or the MSOs coming in. You have a lot of room to be creative, right? And you can act quicker. That's one of the things too, I think, going back to your point on being quick. So no, that's really awesome. So there's so
Yeah.
much that we went over. I really appreciate you for coming on, Chris. I think this was incredibly helpful. I really want to encourage everybody to go to technicianfind.com. It's incredible. There's some really great resources. I think you had the technician ad checklist, which is super
Mhm.
easy to use to get your own ad up. And then obviously the school community, which I think is on your website as well. I think I got invited once I got the checklist. So if you just drop your name and email on Technician Find, I believe you will be invited to the school. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And there's also a top banner on the
Oh, I see it.
website.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And if you click on that, it'll take you right into the school community. And again, the school community is only for independent automotive collision diesel repair shop owners and GMs. So we don't have technicians in there. We don't have, any, dealers or PE or anybody in there. It's just independent shops.
Good to know. Everybody needs to join that. It's incredibly helpful. I mean, there's the all the AI resources that you're working on now and that are already there to use. I mean, it's incredibly the stuff that you're putting out there is incredibly valuable. So,
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
obviously, if anybody, needs direct help, how can they reach out to you? Is it on the website as well?
Yep. Best way is just to contact us. Just go to the contact form on the Technician Find website. Just fill it out. We'll set up a strategy session, and I do several strategy sessions a week, and we take a look at your ads. We take a look at your process and where you're placing those ads, and then I give you an overview of what we do here. If it's a fit, awesome. If it's not, you've got more information on how to make your campaigns more effective.
Exactly. Well, that sounds awesome. So everybody go check it out. I mean, it's going to be really massive, even if that's all you get from it, the school community, the strategy session. I mean, that'll take any shop to the next level. I have no doubt about it. So,
Definitely.
was there anything else you wanted to add, Chris?
You know what? The only other thing I would add is really our company motto is
Mhm.
that good techs do their best work when they link up with great shops, and we all benefit from safe and reliable vehicles.
Exactly.
And that's really what it's about. We want to connect good techs, good shops, and give you both the tools that you need in order to do that.
Perfect. Well, this has been awesome. I really appreciate having you on. It's been a blast, and I took a ton of notes, so I can't wait to share this and let everybody know about how great this can be for their shops. So thank you again, Chris, for hopping on, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Angel, this has been amazing, and congratulations on your new podcast. You're going to be amazing.